welcome to Be Seen. I'm Brandon Lou, and this is Comic Conversation. And while I enjoy talking to you all, everyone out there in the world, this time it's an even better conversation because I have two people with me. It's an actual conversation. I'm losing my breath. I am joined by the creators of Genius Animals, Vali Chandrasekaran and Jun Pierre Shiozawa. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Congratulations, by the way. You guys messaged me, but I saw for myself that on the New York Times, you guys were named a top 10 book to read for the fall. I feel like I got a head start because I've already been reading. But yeah, I definitely recommend Genius Animals, and congratulations on being shown and getting the bump from the New York Times.
It was very exciting. I mean, as I'm sure you know, and everyone who listens to the show knows, like getting the word out about an indie comic book is a lot of work. It's not so easy, especially when there's no cons right now. So to get press like that was really lovely. And hopefully more people, the thing you want most when you make something is people who might like it, finding it. Like the thing that keeps us up at night is like, what if there are people who would like this story or like this book or like this art who will never hear about it? Like, it's fine to me if people who people check it out and don't like it, or it doesn't get to people who it's not for. But if we didn't do everything we could to get it to possible people to enjoy it, that would be such a bummer. And stuff like this and shows like your show are really helpful ways to digitally get the word out.
Totally blew my mind. That's all. I mean, I was like, what? I mean, it was just, and I'm still kind of reeling from it, honestly. Just because, I mean, it was like, all of a sudden it was there, and you're like, how? I mean, you kind of understand the sequence of events. I mean, when you put something out there, sometimes, like the universe responds back, but I mean, still when it actually happens, it's sort of mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's so touching that you're like, oh, we loved this thing and loved making it. It's also being received with love. It's nice. And actually, I'm now realizing, June, this just happened. So you and I haven't seen each other, or we see exchanged emails, but we haven't actually had a chance.
You guys haven't even had the chance to talk about it yet.
No, I mean, with pandemic and kids and work, it's impossible to talk about anything. That's why we have to book ourselves on podcasts, just to get some time.
It's just an opportunity to chat.
Yeah, it's work. That's what we can tell our families. It's work. We can't help it. Bedtime, and we'll catch up.
Well, Vali, I know you've had written and worked on My Name is Earl. I know you've got you also have another book prior to this one, but not a graphic novel. How did you come to the decision that this is what you wanted to do? And how did you guys find each other to become partners on this project?
Well, I can talk about the first part, and June, if you want to take the second part, but I think I've been pretty fortunate in my creative career in that I know I've gotten to just meet a lot of really fun, interesting, creative people, and I've kind of sort of just followed passions and gotten to make stuff that I think some people have enjoyed, other stuff that just I have enjoyed. But that's part of, I have this theory about a creative life. Like I think about this with movie directors all the time. Like if a movie director doesn't have a bad movie, I think he or she is not taking enough risks. Like I feel like you should be doing stuff and pushing yourself such that you might make a movie that no one likes. And that's good because you're trying to do weird things all the time. Yeah. And when it works, it works. And then you have a career like Bob Dylan, who's done all these different genres and kind of hit it in all these different places. And if you're around good, interesting people, you might learn a lot during that time, because as much as it's great to make art and stuff for other people, it really is great too, because it's so hard for yourself. Like the journey has to be the destination. Like Genius Animals took us a year from when we really started working on it in earnest to finishing it. So The book you referenced that I wrote before was a travelogue that I wrote with my friend Steve Healy, and the origin of that is a lot like Genius Animals, where I lived in LA. I was a TV writer. My friend Steve from college lived around the corner from me. So on weekends, after we had gone out and had fun the previous night, we would get up and go have brunch or go to the farmer's market and eat some tacos. And we started just riffing on an idea about how it would be fun to write a travelogue. And as we were doing that, we were saying, I wonder what the hook would be. And the idea was like, let's race each other around the world without using airplanes. Like, isn't that a crazy idea? And wouldn't that be fun? But the thing is, because we lived near each other, we kept talking about it. And then we actually wrote a proposal up and got to do it. And and it was one of those things that was just like a wild idea that we actually got to execute. And it kind of got me hooked on trying to do those things that are those ideas that you have in the last page of your notebook, or that you think about at night one night, and you like scribble down, and you don't really often have a chance to execute on them. But when you do, it's really, really satisfying. And Genius Animals was a lot like that. It was based on a movie script that I wrote 10 years ago, and I had written it when I was on 30 Rock, and my hours were really long, and I just wanted to write something that was fun for me, and I thought I would use it as spec to get other movie work, which I did for a while. But it always was in my head, like, I wish I could tell this story to the world. It's nice. I like the story. I like that I'm getting work off of it, but I wish just 12 executives weren't the only people who knew it. And kind of life brought me and Jun together, and we found a path.
I know one of my favorite things about Jun being on the book is that so much is said sometimes in these pages without any words at all. Jun, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like this fantastic meeting where so Vali's wife and I, we went to an art school years ago. Then I became a teacher at that school, and then I left that school. It's called the Aegean Center. It's this incredible place in Greece. Mm-hmm. And when I still teach art, but I do these workshops, and I go to a place, when there isn't COVID, we'll go to a destination, and it's amazing. It'll be like a week or 2 weeks long, and we'll just do. I'm a watercolor painter primarily, so we sort of do painting in nature, and it's a way to sort of travel and experience the place. And one year I did it in Ireland, and Vali attended with his wife. Like, we reconnected, and they came, and their entire family came. Like, it was this incredible crew of Vali's beautiful family, including both sets of parents, I guess, grandparents.
In style, it was extended family. We can't just travel by ourselves.
It was a beautiful thing, and it was super fascinated by the family dynamics, and also just that it all worked out. I mean, like, just the logistics of it all, never mind just what we were doing. So when we first met, it was primarily just about painting. It was about we were in Galway, Ireland. We were doing plein air at like the cliffs of Moher, all this types of like, beautiful landscapes. And then we would also just talk about our own, our own projects. But I mean, I was very curious about Vali's background as in his career, but I was also, I was a little bit intimidated by just like asking about that, especially when like he was on vacation as well, and we were just doing art. So we didn't actually talk about anything sort of concrete until much later, and that was just sort of in a way by chance, because I was doing some Inktober drawings of my parents. I have this one of the ideas in the back of my personal notebook of just like, one of these days I'm going to get to is a graphic novel about my mom and dad and how they met, how they grew up, and it's basically like kind of like a memoir. And so I did these Inktober sketches around that idea, and Vali noticed them. he was just like, hey man, like, have you ever thought about doing a graphic novel? I mean, I'm kind of speeding up some things here. We had like this back and forth for a while, but I was like really taken by just like, that was a dream of mine. I mean, not just that particular story, but to do a graphic novel has
Right.
always been like like a dream of mine, but it's one of those like really vague, distant dreams. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get something like that. Well, it was just like, boom, what about this? What about this? And so when I was just like, I was hopeful, let's say, at the very beginning. I was like hopeful about this idea. Like, could this actually work? I mean, we know each other pretty well, but could we actually work together? And what would the story be like? And then when I finally actually read the story, I was just like, man, this is amazing. This sounds amazing. I want to work on this. I have so many ideas already. Like, I just want to do this. And then, it just really sort of took off from there. And then we were just kind of like going back and forth. And it just became like this collaborative team project.
Graphic novels right now seem, well, we already mentioned that, the New York Times gave you guys a shout out. And it's such a time right now where graphic novels has that kind of praise where maybe it wouldn't have gotten such recognition maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Comic books as a medium is, still seen even now as primarily like superhero stuff. But then we also see Broadway productions like Fun Home, and graphic novels have become coffee table books. They're legitimate literature now that people recommend to book clubs and into schools. So it's very cool seeing you guys working on this project. That said, we did not even tell the people watching right now, what is Genius Animals? Can you tell us about it? I know, but let us know, who is Alexandra, let's say, which, even though I just gave away the name, and I almost feel bad because I discovered it the same time as Todd did. But you give us like a synopsis of what it is.
Yeah, so Genius Animals is it's the comic book we made, and it is a sort of funny, I say comic mystery, but I mean comic in a funny way, because that was really important to us. And it's sort of tonally, when Jun and I were making the book and when I was writing the script, I thought a lot about The Big Lebowski, the movie, that novel, The Crying of Lot 49. It's sort of a little bit heightened mysteries where someone is going on a journey. And I love those kinds of stories. So the book is about this girl named Alexandra Lakshmi, who's in drawing and personality is kind of a mashup of my wife and Jun's wife. And she gets into this relationship with this guy, and things seem to be going well. And then one day he just ghosts on her. And
hold on. How do your wives, do they see themselves in this character when they read it?
I would hope so. I love Alexandra. Like, I have real affection for her, and I really think she's like beautiful and smart and funny. So I would like to think that they think of that as a compliment.
All right, continue.
She's literally half Indian, half Greek, which is the ethnicities of our respective wives. But Alexandra, after her boyfriend ghosts on her, she has to figure out, like, did he just ghost on me, or is it because of something? Like, every person I know who's been ghosted, it drives them a little bit crazy. And as she tries to figure out what happened, she starts to wonder, wait a second, did he just ghost on me, or am I uncovering a huge conspiracy that means I have to save all of them? And that was a very fun thing for a couple of reasons for us to explore. One is, if you're ghosted, you never want to believe you were actually ghosted. You would almost rather believe that there's a gigantic global conspiracy than a guy or a girl just didn't call you back. And the second thing was, while I was writing this, I was obsessed with the human need for narratives. Like, why do we tell ourselves stories? Like, why when a couple events happen in the world, we have to string them together into a narrative? And as I started to research this and read about it, it seems like the best theory is that our desire our ability to come up with stories gave us an evolutionary edge when we were early on. You know, like if you see some mammoths coming towards you, you think, okay, this could be a danger. If they stop to get water or eat something, okay, they're probably fine. We don't have to move. But if they don't stop and they keep coming this way, like we got to rip up our camp and get out of here. That's something we needed to survival, and it helped humans become the most dominant species on Earth. But the flip side of that is all that mindfulness stuff that we have been reading about in the paper, and mindfulness apps and meditation. And honestly, as long as humans have been writing, there have been movements for mindfulness and understanding nature and quieting the mind. And it's that thing, it's basically quieting the voice in your head. Quieting the voice in your head that drives you crazy. That's always like, was I weird at that party? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I talk too much? Did I not? All of that stuff that makes you insane. So I was interested in what they call that the problem of consciousness, the people who think about this. And I was interested in coming up with a story that kind of played with the problem of consciousness, that made our lead character, Alexandra, have to choose between not believing her mind, the ideas that were coming up in her mind. And if you decide that you don't believe your mind, that means you're crazy. Or if she believes there's some sort of huge conspiracy, she's essentially saying, I believe the craziest thing I've ever imagined. So I like coming up with the story where there's two options, neither of them are good, and basically both of them are admitting you may be insane.
There's definitely a lot of room for comedy, both visually and verbally. One of the things I loved, and I didn't know if this was artistic license, was this something that was talked about? It looked like the very conversation you were having with me, we were seeing on the page it looked like Werner Herzog. And it seemed like such a perfect person to having this conversation, because everything he says, and I've read interviews by him because he's just such an interesting figure. And his concepts on theater and reality and the way we tell stories and the way we relate to one another. Was that intentional, or Jun, did you just toss Werner Herzog in? Who was this man that looked so familiar to me?
You got it, man. It was Werner Herzog, but I mean those words were it was Vali. I mean, like the way that he would respond to things, and the way that he would just kind of place himself, his viewpoint into the storyline, that was all there. So it was just a matter of just kind of getting that sort of that Werner energy when, as he's just sort of navigating, or he's one of the guides through the story, because he is such an incredible, fascinating character person, and just he's intense, but he's also really dry. He's funny as hell. Like, he's a funny, smart dude. And so just getting that energy and having other characters play off of him, and other elements of just like funniness, like the fact that he's showing these Amazonian tribesmen like basically like Bugs Bunny cartoons just to get a response from them. Like, it's all kind of absurd, but he's dead serious about it. And how, you know, so all of these, I think, aspects of kind of what interests us, and I think also like what interested just like these, well, at least maybe what mirrored kind of what Alexandra is going through, of like finding herself in all of these pretty bizarre, increasingly insane situations, sort of fit into some of the themes and films that Werner would has created in the past, and some of these ideas. So sort of like he really fits in the entire storyline. And you know, like, and it gets, we really play on that. It's like how silly it gets for this Werner. It's actually Werner Herzog in the story. Maybe that's some, I don't know, potential. We're just trying to cover ourselves.
Werner Herzog lawyers are listening to this. It's just coincidence. It's not Zog. It's a different name. You can't sue us.
June, you brought up both the indigenous tribesmen and the cartoon, the Bugs Bunny like cartoons.
Yeah.
This is such a fun world to play in. It seems like, because you're doing cartoon characters, you're doing recognizable celebrities. Uh, we're also seeing octopuses holding USB cords, and we are in clubs with different people, both, just a regular hangout spot and another club for fringe personalities on the edge of the world. I might relate to some of those people that were in the red room, as I'm calling it. What's it like playing in this world? And your color palette itself, you get to jump around. How do you make these decisions as far as what do you want to see in this very big world?
You just like you said it. I mean, like that right there was one of the most exciting things for me while I was just, reading the story for the very first time, imagining the different environments and sequences that the protagonist, like how she sort of moves through all of these different worlds, like the colors and just the imagery and the like the feeling of these different places, like this bar called Give Me Death, or like the Amazon rainforest, or just like a really kind of like a marine lab that turns into like a bunker. I mean, like all of these different environments kind of creates this, even though the story, I mean, it's set in New York. She moves around New York, but it also takes place beyond New York, and it feels much wider. And that's it. Speaking of, the Big Lebowski.
Into the whole brevity thing. Are you employed, Mr. Lebowski? Employed?
You like sex, Mr. Lebowski?
Is this your only ID? You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude. Your name's Lebowski.
There's something about Big Lebowski too, where it's set in LA, but it's an epic, and it really is like he's going through all of these different episodes, trying to unravel this mystery, and every scene, or like all of these different environments, it's like another epic chapter, where there's like another being or a character that he confronts. And it's like, that's the feeling I got with Alexandra and Finnegan, as they're just going from one sort of, they're meeting one character to the next, or one scene to the next. And I just thought, like, designing that and drawing that and imagining that, like, immediately I could imagine it. Immediately I could think of, wow, that could look so cool. Like, for example, if that bar was just like, it's all lit by gaslighting, and so it's just like red and kind of intense and grungy. But like just like being able to like play in that and tell a story in these different scenes, that was for me so like just attractive about the idea of working on this book, and then just being in that world, because then through that, Alexandra, like the character, she changes, she evolves, and we kind of were like on this big ride with her. So it was a lot of fun.
It sounds like a lot of fun. What I'm not sure is so fun, and I hope the people watching aren't so bothered by this, but I got to ask about the business aspect of it. Right now, you guys are self-publishing, which seems to have been a blessing for you guys right now. But it also seems like, I don't know if it's because I'm not a writer, I'm not a publisher. I don't know what it's like out there in the world, where it seems like self-publishing, not just in writing, but also in music and in podcasting and vlogging. It seems like this wide world that's unmoderated. It's the Wild West. What was it like making the decision to self-publish and tell the story yourselves? And now you guys are releasing it yourselves on your website every Tuesday, I believe.
It was every Tuesday, but now all the chapters are up. The whole book is for free at geniusanimals.net. We were doing it one chapter at a time, but 2 weeks ago, the last chapter went up. It was 2 weeks ago. So now you can read the whole thing for free there. And the answer to your question is we kind of stumbled into it. Like with a lot of things we've done in this book, we were going to go with a small publisher, some people that Jun met very early on in the process. He was at a con and showed some pages to some people, and we sent them an early PDF. But then the pandemic happened, and that just kind of changed the landscape for printing, for promotion. You know, Jun and I are not established in the comics world, so like, how do you get the word out for a new book from a new writer and a new artist? So as we were thinking about our options, we kind of thought, would be the best way to get the most people to see it, maybe putting it online for free. Also, by the way, we're stuck in our houses, so Jun and I are going insane. So we wanted to like put it out there. We felt like we were sitting on this story that we had completed that was in our pocket, and wanted to show it to people. And we were hoping other people were going as crazy in their houses. Not hoping, I would wish none of them were going crazy, but had the sense that people were going crazy and maybe wanted to read stuff to kind of forget about what's going on around them as well. So we just kind of, as an experiment, thought we would put it out one chapter at a time, always knowing like, well, if nobody looks at it, then we can just stop doing it and figure it out, because nobody's seen it. So it won't feel like some sort of great humiliation or anything like that. And now I think we've been really touched by the response to it. Like, a lot of people, our friends who aren't necessarily people who go to the comic shop every Wednesday or once a month to order something, like, they checked it out because they like comedy, or they like the artwork, and because it's free, they read through the whole thing, and we get messages like, I'm not even a graphic novel person, and I checked in every week. And now we're trying, the word is spreading amongst people who do read comics a little bit more, and it's fun. And the other thing about the business side of it is the market for an adult non-superhero comic is hard. Like, I think publishers, and you see people on Twitter talking about this all the time, like, there's a lot of YA stuff that does really well. And the assumption is by the publishers that, like, when those people grow out of the YA period, they either still read YA, which still I think happens. Like, I think some of my favorite graphic novels are
Vouch for that.
for the teen. What's that?
I can vouch for that. Both
they're for the teen audience. And it's only a couple, like 1 or 2 books a year that is for adults that really breaks through. So I think it's unfortunately in an underserved marketplace. As much as I love the YA graphic novel, I would love if there was more stuff that is just for not just for, but like targeted at grown-ups, like with grown-up characters,
right.
not doing kid stuff. But I feel a thirst I feel like with our project, we've proven that there's a thirst for it. Mm-hmm. I know from looking at creators online, a lot of them want to do it. And I hope that publishers find a way to kind of goose that marketplace a little bit and develop it a little bit more, and get shops used to buying some more of that stuff.
Well, I just want to, if I could just jump in real quick about like kind of like the business of it, and just like the devotion and dedication to doing something like this. I mean, graphic novels, they take a lot of time. I mean, like the amount of hours and, all of the, it's just like the writing of it, the artwork, putting it together. So it's, inevitably, it becomes this labor of love, and you put your all into it. Just like in any, whether it's, like music or podcasting or writing, it's just like, if you got this passion, you find the time to do it, and you just grind it out. And especially if like you see the finish line, if you see like where things are just developing, and if it feels like it's moving somewhere, and it always felt like it was really moving somewhere. And even when we were submitting to publishers with no response, we were submitting to all kinds of people and asking for reference. I mean, like Vali said, we're not really in the comic book world, we don't have that many contacts. So we were just doing what like anybody would do, going online, seeing what was out there, like, doing our research. But then
Takes
we,
up to mail rooms where I'm sure packages were never even open, envelopes were never even open, and we knew it. That might be the case.
But then I don't know. The thing is that once we decided to just put it out there, we just sort of hit the publish button on like the website that we put together. Then like all of a sudden, it finally felt like we were like there was like response to all of that energy that we put out there. Like, there was something, and who knows what's going to happen? We don't really know, but we're talking to you. Like things are happening, and it's just like, so I guess all I could say, one of the things I've learned from this was just, just doing it, putting in that time, and then just finally like just putting something out there. There will be some sort of a response. It might be small, it might be just one person, but like Vali, he reached out to me when I started doing some of those Inktober sketches. I just put it out there. So like that's a big lesson that I've been learning from this. And it's really sort of like pushing me like, hey, even if it's not like 100% signed, sealed, and delivered, like that something is gonna happen, like it's still absolutely worth it to do it. Like I'm so happy that we did this, and we did it this way.
One of the things I love about the graphic novel genre, this book in particular, and I guess the community that forms around it, and I'd love to know your response on it, is seeing characters that look like me. And I don't necessarily mean because me and Alexandria have the same color hair, but and
I think you have Todd's potential to have Todd's fun.
But as a Puerto Rican myself, it's always great for me to see not just characters of different cultures, but creators of different cultures as well. I'm wondering what the response has been from those who have read it. Have people reached out to you when they see this book?
Well, first I'll say one thing that was really important to us, and it sort of, we came across it later, was why can't these characters look like us, but even though we're not doing a story about race or identity or fitting in, like we're doing a regular story that if you were casting it, you could do it with anybody. And because that's, as a person who's Indian, Jun who's half French and half Japanese, and you're Puerto Rican, most of our lives are not being a racial identity. We're not sitting there going through there and being like, as an Indian man, I wonder what I'm going to have for lunch today. Like, you just live these things, and we just kind of decided, like, let's make the characters look like
people,
us, and the people that we know in our world. And when Jun was developing those sketches, it kind of came out, because I don't think I wrote it that necessarily that way. I don't think I wrote it with race in mind, and Jun came back with these sketches, and we kind of gravitated towards that way, and like, and it became more and more like people we know as it went through the process. And I think a little bit of that was my own personal evolution as an artist, because when I started as a writer, I did not want to do Indian stuff. I thought, like, I don't want to be the Indian writer who only does Indian things, and that show, like, as a writer, the fun part of it is you can do anything, and I don't want to be like, I also thought about it as being ghettoized in that world where people will only ask me to do those stories. But the world has changed a lot in the entertainment space in the last 15 years, whereas now people are suddenly way more interested in those stories, and like Pen 15 is no longer a niche show for children of immigrants. It's a huge comedy hit, and everybody likes it and likes the specificity of it. But being an older writer myself, there's still a part of me that wonders, like, if I do that stuff, will people think of me as just that? And I had a lot of fun on Genius Animals with Jun's help, like kind of relaxing that about myself and letting more of myself and my world seep into that story. And it was it was really nice. It did feel really nice, and it did feel great to put that out in the world. And like, I don't even think Alexandra Lakshmi is half Indian, half Greek, and we never say that. We never say Hapa or anything like that. We just call her Alexandra Lakshmi. That's it. Like, why? No one comments on it because it's not comment worthy. She's a human being, and that's her life, and we love that. I personally love that.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't really gotten that many comments about that specific, about like their backgrounds at all, but which I think is kind of cool because in a way, you know, like they're, you know, Todd, you know, he's maybe, you know, he looks a little bit like me, and then you have Alexandra, you know, she's, you know, looks a little bit like, I guess, our wives, but like, you know, and they're a couple, you know, like they see each other, they check each other out, they're attracted to one another, and they're a couple. And the thing is that like most of my friends, or a lot of my friends, it's exactly like that. No matter the background, they're into each other, and they have different, maybe like they might have some different backgrounds, but the main thing is that they're into one another, and that chemistry is just the main thing. That's the primary thing. So just showing that, and then just moving on. Like just that's what it's all about. And I think as far as like that connection, just conveying that was really what was important, and the fact that they could just they could just feel right, no matter where they were coming from, was just like the only thing that really mattered. And it seems like that's been like part of like the most popular part of the book. You know, just like their little love story.
That montage at the beginning. But by the way, Jun, I don't even think I've told you this yet. I found out the actress Hannah Simone is half Greek, half Indian. And then I was like, oh, Alexandra does look a lot like Hannah Simone. Like Jun, who created this character out of thin air, like did kind of do a good job blending those features. It's nice. I can't remember. I saw her actual last name, but it is, once you know her birth name, you realize like, oh, of course, it's very clear.
The hardest guy, or the hardest character to design was Todd, because Todd, in a way, he's the leading man in a way, and just trying to design him was pretty tricky for me. And there was a point where I was like, I don't know why, but I think he's got his hair pulled back in like a man bun. And I was showing this initially to like some of my friends, and like I remember my sister saying like, no way, dude, you cannot. This guy. And so I was sending Vali like these different ideas of who Todd could be. And then I'm like, man, maybe I should just throw in the man bun going. Oh wait, that's almost embarrassing. And then I was like, I think I like that one. And I was like, I like that one too. Because he had a man, it was like a silhouette. You know what I mean? It's like who said that about the character design? Like it's all about the silhouette, like whether it's Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse. And like just him having like, let's say, short hair or something, maybe the silhouette wouldn't be as interesting. But him having like something on the back of his head, like maybe like kind of like a samurai or something, that might actually look cool, or like just on page. So I thought that was pretty interesting, just as far as what might not work on paper, but it actually works in just
I also really liked that look because it was a choice. So like as soon as you see that, you know, like that guy's made a choice. And I wanted, because Todd disappears and looms so large in the book, I wanted his image to loom large in your mind, and that one did, because you were like, that's the guy with the man bun. Like had a choice. And he doesn't, because whenever you see a real guy with the man bun, you're like, okay, this could go one of two ways. And I want to know very quickly which way this goes.
as the hair has grown during the quarantine, it has become bun worthy. It was not this long at the start of the year, I can tell you that. I'm hoping, if the girlfriend allows it, that by next year the hair continues to grow. I could do maybe a Age of Apocalypse Cyclops kind of cosplay. So we'll see what happens.
That's true. You're also pretty close to an Anton Chigurh.
Oh wow.
That could, if you pull it a little forward a little bit, maybe that could work.
I'll do that off camera. I'm gonna start playing with the man bun and see what happens.
Cyclops now, man. I think you could do the. I mean, that would.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna have to call some people, make sure that everything looks right.
Yeah. He kind of flips it over, I think, on one side.
No,
Now we're just in a Head and Shoulders commercial. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. I will take any advertisement. So if anyone on Head and Shoulders is marketing team is watching, I welcome it. I welcome it. Do you see this as one and done, or having seen the success that you are still getting? Because this is an ongoing from being positively reviewed by friends to positively reviewed from New York Times. Do you see yourself coming back to the world of graphic novels and comic books? Or is this your opus, so to speak, one and done?
I think we do want to come back to the world of graphic novels for sure. We really enjoyed this idea, and we're happy with the execution, the response on it. And I think both of us immediately started working on something else. I'm working on a TV pilot. Jun is working on teaching a lot and his book. But we do talk about what should we do together next, and we're trying to figure that out. And actually we'll talk later. There's some I had a thought about expanding some stuff in the center of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the feeling after this project is it's such a special feeling after you've finished something like a graphic novel or any comic. I mean, comics just take a lot of time. They take a lot of devotion, and so because there's just so many different parts to it. So the feeling afterwards is just, you have this momentum. I mean, that's how I felt. I just felt like, wow, there's just so much, I just want to kind of keep this going. And in a way, we've kept that momentum going in the promoting of the book, and then just also so talking about it, getting it out there. I mean, the really funny thing about, talking about it now is a lot of these conversations we actually didn't have during the making of it at all. It's almost more like now we're talking, or now we're discussing stuff that we were thinking about during the making of it, which is kind of wild. Vali and I didn't talk nowhere near as much like face to face like this during the actual making of it, more just like emails and texts and stuff. But yeah, but as far as momentum, I want to kind of keep that going as far as like creatively. You always have ideas when you're working on a project. Like you have like ideas for other projects. So yeah, like I have definitely some things I want to just sort of get going on. It's just a matter of that time, like knowing now how much time you need, like knowing how much of a window of time you're going to have to invest in. It's just like sort of like constructing that. I have a kid, I have another job, I'm teaching. So it is just a matter of sort of like time management. But I think for sure we're going to get back on something. Because it's just like, just too much energy still going on.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. You guys are a great team. Like I'm in. Like so whatever project you guys do, I want to read it. I'm interested. I love this book. This is great.
Thanks so much, man, and thanks so much for helping getting the word out about comics in general and getting people excited about the stuff that you're excited about.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for everything. How can people follow you guys? Where can we read the book? Let everyone know who's watching. What's the best way to be in contact and what you guys are up to?
The book is at geniusanimals.net, all one word, and then our own socials are on there. But I am at the Real Vali at Twitter and Instagram. And June,
I'm at Jun Pierre, just my first name, just one word, Twitter and Instagram.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having us on.
No, thank you for being here. I was excited to talk to you guys. I wish you guys the most success, and I am looking forward to seeing great things. Numbers climbing. I'm hyped for you guys. All right, and everyone else, you can follow us at Comic Convo. That is COMICONVO, or follow me directly at Lewis or Brandon. Check out everything on To Be Seen's YouTube page, from this dungeon to this very show, Comic Conversation. This has been a lot of fun. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and pick up Genius Animals. It is available to you right now.